Fit like loons and quines and abdy else that's watching. My name is Pauline Cordiner and I'm a storyteller from the northeast of Scotland, and I have been asked to record a few wee stories for the TMSA Keith Festival, and this one is for all the schools. So when I was thinking, what stories will I tell? I had a look at the names of the lanes in Keith, which you only got just a few years back, and I was inspired by them. Now I've got a weaver's story, but this one is all about Fairmers Lane. Now, once upon a time, somewhere in the northeast of Scotland, maybe even in Keith, just outside it, there was a farmer. Now this farmer, he lived with his young wife that hadn't been married long, and he had a tiny little patch of land where they kept a cow and a couple of sheep and a few chickens and the pigs. And the pigs had a pigsty out the back of the wee farmhouse, and all day and all night the farmer worked hard, sometimes for himself and sometimes for other folk if the harvest was needing taken in or anything. Well, there was one day his wife, who made cheese with the milk for the cow, had fed him his cheese for his tea, and he had enjoyed it thoroughly, and he went to bed, and I have to tell you, he had the strangest dream. It was so vivid, and when he woke up in the morning, he could remember the whole thing, and he sat down at breakfast and he said, I had the strangest dream last night. I dreamt that I got up and I put on my trousers and I put on my jumper, my gansy, and I headed outside to work on the land, and right outside our house there was a great big golden coin. Oh, you never, she said. Aye, he said, but that wasn't the end of my dream, that was just the start. I dreamt with that coin that I looked at it and I thought of the whole wide world, and you know what I did with it? I got a coach, and I took that coach all the way down to Aberdeen. And in my dream, I got upon a boat at the harbour, and that boat, that ship, it sailed all the way out to sea. But you've never been to sea in your life, said his wife. Aye, I can, he said, but that was hardly any of the dream. Just wait until you hear what happened next. So in the dream, the boat sailed further and further and further away from him. Oh, we were going so far, and the further we went, the hotter it got. But eventually, we came to this port, to this harbour, and everybody around me, they were speaking different languages. Oh, and it was so hot that I could see everybody. They were wearing these big white, light white robes. So I sold my clothes and I bought some of these robes, and I looked around, and all of a sudden, through the noise and the carry-on and the shouting of the people in the marketplace that surrounded the harbour, I could hear this one man. His voice was ringing out above everybody else's, and that was because he was speaking our language. And I went up to him and I said, excuse me. And he said, aye, are you wanting a job? Well, I said to him, what kind of job is it? And he said, well, we'll be taking a caravan. A caravan, he said. Now, it turned out that the caravan is a long line of camels. She said, what's a camel? He said, well, it's this strange beast that carries lots and lots on his back. Anyway, they were taking the camels all the way out into the desert, and they were selling goods and picking up goods as they went. And there was spices, and there was cloths, and there was these bonny, beautiful jewels, the likes of which you never see out here in the country. And he wanted me, because, I'm quite a big muscly chiel. He wanted me to guard them at night time from all the robbers and all the thieves and the brigands that might come and steal from them. Oh my goodness, she said, and what happened then? Well, in my dream, we reached this big oasis in the middle of the desert. If it's that, she said. Oh, well, an oasis, it's like water when there's sand and dryness and sand dunes all around. Oh, Michty, she said. And everybody stopped at the oasis because there was food and fresh water. And I was starting to learn the language of the people now because they would speak to me at night and I was able to have a wee conversation with them. But in my dream, I got up and I walked away from the folk at the oasis and I walked deeper and deeper and deeper into the desert and I came to this great big beautiful palace with all the carved tops to it and it was beautiful, and I knocked at the gates and the soldiers let me in and the soldiers took me to the king and the king handed me a shovel and the king took me to his garden, and right there underneath this tree I dug and eventually I dug up this great big treasure chest, and when the king opened it, it was full of gold and diamonds and rubies and necklaces and crowns and treasure. And I got to keep some of it. And I found treasure, and that was my dream. Oh, mighty me, said the wife. Oh, well, you'll never be thinking about staying here on the farm with me. Oh, I will, he said. I would come back to you, no matter how far I travelled. But right now, he said, sutting the rest of his bros for his bowl, I'd better get out. And that's all the travelling I'm doing today. And he left and he went outside. Well, you could have heard him screaming all the way over at Peterhead because the most amazing thing happened. The farmer came running straight back in and she said, get your dubby beats off my flare. And he was holding in his hand, you've guessed it, a gold coin. And he said, this is a joke, isn't it? And she said, no. Where did you get that from? It was right outside the door, just in my dream. Just like in my dream. But she said, we're not rich enough to have gold. Well, I don't know where it came from. But like it or not, this is a gold coin. Oh my goodness, she said. And they went and they sat around the table and they discussed what they could buy with a gold coin, because a gold coin, it's, it would have been worth hundreds of pounds. Even back then. Millions of pounds, maybe now. I don't know, certainly thousands. Well, for weeks they didn't tell anyone about this gold coin. They wondered if somebody could have dropped it, but they figured that they would have heard that some... Besides, nobody ever came up to their wee farm. It was quite remote. And then months passed and she could tell that he was thinking. He was thinking about it. And one day she woke up and she said, I've made a decision. What to do with that gold coin? Oh, what we're going to do with it, he said. What we're going to spend it on. She said, you're going to spend it. You're going to go to Aberdeen on a coach. You're going to get on a boat and you're going to have an adventure, because I can't be married to a man that didn't follow his dream. Oh, but he said, we need this money. And she said, well, we're getting on fine without it. I'll make the sacrifice. I can live with your family and my family, and we can make do on the farm. Your brothers will come and help here until you get back. Now off you go. So it was. He packed a wee bag and he thought he'd save on the fare. Besides, nobody in Keith could break a gold coin. And he walked to Aberdeen. It took him a good few days, mind. And when he got to Aberdeen, he found a ship. Now this ship was exactly like the one in his dreams. It had the same amount of sails and the same blue band down one of the sails, and he went on board and he said to the man, where are you going? He said, oh well, we're going down to London, we're picking up a few things, and then we're going all the way around Spain, and we're going into the Mediterranean, and we're going to Alexandria, which is in Egypt. Oh, mighty me, said the man. Well, can I come with you? Oh, we don't take on any more sailors. We've got enough, thank you very much. Oh no, he said, and he was holding up his gold coin. I can pay. Well, he was brought to see the captain of the ship, and the captain of the ship said, certainly we'll take you as a customer, and that will more than do to pay your fare. And off they sailed. And as they sailed and sailed, he saw so much. He saw the dolphins in the sea. He might even have seen a couple of whales breaching the water. And the moon came up at night, and he knew that he was having such a good adventure to tell his wife about when he got back. Off he went, and down and south and round Spain and through the Gibraltar Straits and into the Mediterranean. It got so hot, and his skin got quite brown because, well, you know, he would help out on the ship and everything like that, but he spent a lot of time just gazing over, enjoying every second of this adventure. And eventually they pulled into the port at Alexandria, and it was exactly like it had been in the dream. Everybody talking in different foreign languages, people of every colour, of every culture, all their different clothes, and he got off, and right enough, he was off a warm in his Scottish clothes, so he sold them and he traded them for these white robes that everybody was wearing. He later found out that they reflected the heat of the sun, and then he heard a voice, and it was the voice of somebody speaking English, somebody with a Scottish accent, somebody speaking Scots. And he went to this man and he said, "Hello," and the man said, "Uh-huh." He said, I had a dream and I met you, and I'm here, and you need people to fight off brigands and robbers, don't you?" And the man went, I'm looking for someone as it happens, but tell me, you followed a dream. Are you crazy? And he said, "Well, I'm having an adventure anyway. If you need me, are you wanting me to work for you?" And the man said, "Yes." And right enough, the very next day, they left with some goods which they were taking on to another part, maybe Cairo, to trade. And the camels, they were laden with salt from the sea and expensive things that could be traded. And, well, he had no idea what anybody was saying apart from this one man that worked with the leader of the caravan. And the camels, they were absolutely huge and they stank. But it was an adventure. And they walked day after day after day across the desert, and he'd been given something to fight off all the brigands and robbers. And there was a couple of times that him and some of the other men and a couple of really feisty women had to fight them off, and he did a good job. But by the fires at night, the people would talk to him, and although he didn't understand them to start off with, a couple of weeks in, he was learning the words for drink and eat and thank you and you're welcome and people's names. And he was having such an adventure. But, you know, time went on, and eventually they reached an oasis. And when they got to the oasis, it was exactly as it had been in his dreams. There was stalls, there was palm trees, and here was a man who spoke English. And he said to the man, "This is just like in my dream." And the man said, "What?" And he said, "Oh, the dream that I had, where I took the coin and I found the coin and I came to Alexandria." "You followed your dream? You came all the way here because of a dream? You're crazy, crazy man." But then he knew. He woke up one morning, the next morning after they arrived in the bazaar, in the oasis, and he looked off in the distance, and it was just the way that the sun was shimmering over the desert horizon that he thought, that's the direction I need to go in. And he went to the man they'd first met, and he said, "I must go. This is where my dream takes me. If you go out in the desert, you will die. You'll run out of water and you'll die, and only the vultures will be there to keep you company." And he said, No, is this what happened in my dream?" "Well, I can't stop you," said the man, "but maybe we'll see you again in another life." And he took his canteen of water and off he went into the desert. And he walked, and he walked, and he walked. And do you know what happened? And he walked, and he walked, and he drank the last of his water. And it was days later, and there was still no palace. And he collapsed in the desert, and he was giving himself up for dead because those vultures were circling. And the next thing he knew, there was a great big bucket of water was being thrown in his face, and he was in a cold dungeon somewhere, and the men, they were shouting at him in this foreign language, and he started to reply, no, using some of the words that he'd learned. I had a dream. Oh, said the soldier, who was standing looking over him. Another man with a dream, he said in his own language, but the farmer understood. But he begged and he begged, please take me to your king, take me to the Sultan. And he was dragged up the stairs and into the light of this beautiful room hanging with tapestries, and lying up at the front on a long couch was the Sultan. He said, another one. Yes, said the soldier, a man with a dream. And then the Sultan sat up, eating something, drinking from a glass, and he said, tell me, he said this in English, I am an educated man, yet I cannot understand why year after year the desert brings me people like you from all over the world who have had a dream. Oh yes, they dream that in my palace, in my garden, beneath my olive tree, that there is buried treasure. And here you are, yet another man who has followed his dream. And you will die here, he said. No, said the farmer, no, I have a wife back home, please, I have a wife. The Sultan laughed. Why should I spare your life? Why? It was treasure enough just coming here, just seeing your beautiful land, just seeing the dolphins and the whales from the ship, the colours and the smells and the noises of the marketplaces. I had a dream, said the Sultan. I dreamt that I sailed. I dreamt that I went to a land that was cold, where the wind blew and the rain fell. And I dreamt that I walked inland to a beautiful town split by a river. And I dreamt that not far from there was a farm, and in that farm there was a dirty little cottage, and out the back was a stinking pigsty. And I dreamt that I dug in that pigsty and I found treasure. But did I follow my dream? No, I did not. I stayed where I was safe with my family and my people within my palace in my land. You think me an idiot for following my dream? Yes, I do. Then please take pity on a poor idiot and set me free. The Sultan sighed. He said, I am too soft. But that night, he fed the farmer. And the farmer told him all the stories of Aberdeenshire and where he came from. And the Sultan told him about his land and his family and his people and his creed and his culture. And the next morning, the Sultan gave him a camel, a change of clothes and food to see him back across the desert to the oasis. He waited at the oasis until another caravan came by, and to his delight he saw it was the same one with all his friends. They had been trading in possibly Cairo, I don't know, somewhere further beyond, and they had new things, new spices, new jewels, new cloths to sell when they got to Alexandria. They made it back to Alexandria safe. Yes, he was fighting off the brigands at night, and there he sold the clothes that the Sultan had given him. He bought cheaper ones, and he found a job working on a ship that would take him as far as Spain. And he worked hard, and he knew the basics. He could tie ropes and things. He was fixing sails, and he worked hard. And from Spain, he managed to get a boat to France. He managed to get a boat over to Dundee. And from Dundee, he walked on foot. He was penniless. His skin was losing its brown tan that he'd got when he was in the hot countries, and by the time he was approaching Keith, months had passed. Months. But the swelling in his heart when he saw his little cottage. His brother was there, helping his wife, and so was a couple of her sisters. And as he looked, he could see she was holding something in her arms. A baby. While he had been away, she'd had their first child. He was exhausted and his shoes had holes in them. He ran and he fell into her arms, kissing her all over the face, and she was so happy to have him back. And there was a full family now, the baby, and great celebrations that night. He wanted to hear what had been happening while he'd been away, so it was a few hours before they said, "What about you? Tell us your adventures." It was almost as if the party lasted for 3 days, and it was almost as if between sleeping and eating and meeting new people that were turning up at the farm, it seemed an almost 3 days before he got his full story out. "So you didn't find riches," said his wife. "No, he didn't. But I've got something better than that. I've got a story. I've come back to you and this wee one here. And that is all the treasure in the world that I need." He was the happiest man on earth. Yeah, he'd followed his dream. Some people might have said he was crazy. He didn't. And a year passed, and the baby was starting to walk. It toddled past the pigsty. And he could see something, that the pig was nudging about in the muck. It was glittering. Like gold. Taking a deep breath, he ran and he got a spade and he started to dig. And he dug, remembering what the Sultan had told him. The cold country where it rains and the wind blows, and way inland, it's a beautiful wee town with a river running by, and near there was a farm with a little farmhouse and a pigsty, and that was the Sultan never followed his dream, did he? The Sultan never followed his dream. So the farmer followed the Sultan's dream for him, and he dug and he dug and he dug, and soon, clunk, the spade hit something solid. And can you imagine the wife when she came out and saw her husband with his feet sticking out of a hole in the pigsty, and the look in his face when he pulled up a trunk full of treasure? The family were rich. The people round about were rich, for he used his money within the community for good. And there you are. Was it crazy that he followed his dream? I don't think so. I don't think anyone that follows their dream is crazy. And there you go. That is the story of the farmer who followed his dream. I hope you liked it. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the festival. Bye-bye.